Hi everyone, this is Between Two Lines. I'm Levi. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell so you know when the new video comes out. If you're a type 1 diabetic, you're married to one, you know one, you're a friend of one, the channel is a great way to not only learn some information, maybe pick up some things that you didn't know, but to provide some perspective and often try to find some humor in type 1 diabetes. If you're a type 1 diabetic and you're going to manage your diabetes with any level of success, there's 4 laws that you've got to obey, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's get right into it. When you were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, whether it was recently or you can remember it, it's an immediate, overwhelming amount of information. You don't do this, this is how you do this is where you buy your supplies, this is how you check your blood sugar, and it's overwhelming. But most, if not all, of the information you receive in those initial few weeks is built around these 4 laws. And law number 1, you are responsible for providing your body with insulin. If you're type 1 diabetic, your body's not creating insulin, your pancreas isn't creating insulin, or it's not creating enough. And now you're responsible for doing that. And there's several ways you can do it. It used to be all syringes and vials. Now you can, there's quick pens that are plastic. You could have an insulin pump that gave you insulin. That's a little bit more of an automated process throughout the day. There's also ways to inhale insulin. The technology's come a long way, but no matter what the vehicle is that you use to provide your body with insulin, that's your responsibility now. It's no longer an automated process. Law number 2, you've got to count carbohydrates. So when you sit down and eat, you've got to know how many carbohydrates are sitting on this plate so you can give the appropriate amount of insulin. That's difficult to do at first if you're newly diagnosed. I know that part can be discouraging because it's just a headache, and when you get it wrong, you're out of whack for a while trying to get everything back level. That becomes second nature, so don't stress out too much about that. As time goes by, it becomes a more natural thing where you can eyeball stuff and you're really close. But in order to give the right amount of insulin, you've got to count carbohydrates. Law number 3, you've got to check your blood sugar. That process is broken. It's all over the map. That's what the name of the game is, trying to keep your blood sugar between the high line and the low line. And it requires checking it constantly to know not only where you are now, but where you've been and where you're going. It's kind of like checking the speedometer on your car. You glance at it every few seconds while you're driving to make sure you're not going too fast, going too slow, you're not endangering those around you. And checking your blood sugar allows you to know not only where you are, but it allows you to dial in the amount of insulin you're given for the carbohydrates you've just counted. We're all different. There's no 2 people that are the same. The amount of insulin you require for 50 grams of carbohydrates is probably not the same that I require. And so as you check your blood sugar, you'll be able to start dialing it in and realize, oh, I'm constantly a little bit high after I eat meals. Perhaps my insulin levels aren't high enough. Or, hey, I go low 2 hours later after meals. Perhaps I'm giving too much insulin. You can start to fine tune it and calibrate your carb to insulin ratio. And that brings us to law number 4. You've got to see an endocrinologist. There's several benefits to this, one of which is most of the crud you require to be a type 1 diabetic is prescription based. So your test strips, your insulin, all these things, the pump supplies, you require a prescription for that, and the endocrinologist is who will provide you with that. The second benefit to seeing the endocrinologist is the A1C test. The A1C test is like a batting average for a baseball player. Out of all the times they stepped up to the plate and tried to hit the ball, what percentage of the time were they successful? That's your A1C test. It's a 90-day average. What was the average blood sugar you sat at over a 90-day period of time? It's a lot like a report card. If you're in school now, or you remember or think back to a time when you were in school, it's the 3rd grade, you could lie to your mom for the whole semester and say, oh, math's going great. Math is going great. My grades are good. I passed that quiz. But when the report card came home, the truth came with it. And you couldn't lie to mom anymore because the report card gave the results of that semester. And then she told dad, and then you were in trouble. And not only were you in trouble for lying, but now that was going to be your biggest area of focus for the next semester, math. That's the A1C test. So please don't begrudge your family members, if it's your wife or your husband or your parents, for giving you grief when you have a poor A1C test. It's because they care about you. Imagine if they didn't. If when you were in school, they just let you fail every class and you always had Fs, you never even graduated high school, you didn't go to college, your life took a downward trajectory, and then one day you pick your head up and you're like, hey, mom, dad, why didn't you care? Why'd you just let me crash and burn? You never gave me any kind of accountability. That's your A1C test. It works the same exact way. So one day you will look back and thank your parents or your husband or your wife for dragging you kicking and screaming through those years. So don't begrudge those times you do have a bad A1C. That's a huge benefit to seeing the endocrinologist. The final thing is that it's a trained professional. That's what they do, is deal with people with type 1 diabetes. So it's a great opportunity to look at the data from the last 90 days and make adjustments and strategize on what worked and what didn't. Whether or not you love your endocrinologist, they still know a lot about the industry and the condition, and will be able to provide you with at least good ideas on to get your brain churning on how to tweak what you're doing to get better results. These are 4 laws you've got to obey as a type 1 diabetic. I know I missed some, so leave in the comments something you feel like is a law of type 1 diabetes, because if I missed it, there's someone else out there who would really appreciate hearing it. My name's Levi. This is Between Two Lines.